Hey guys, welcome back to Supernaturalist, where we explore the monsters, legends, and lore behind Supernatural. Today we're talking about Season 2, Episode 16, Roadkill. And this is one of the show's most haunting ghost stories. What makes this episode so memorable is that it isn't just about one ghost, it's about two spirits trapped on the same road, but for very different reasons. One of them is driven by rage, the other is driven by confusion, grief, and the inability to let go. And that's what makes Roadkill so good. This episode isn't just a scary story about a haunted highway. It's about what happens when death leaves something unfinished behind. The episode opens with Molly and David driving down a dark road. It's isolated, it's late at night, they're lost. Tensions are rising, and the whole scene already feels wrong in that very specific supernatural way. The road is too empty. The night feels too quiet. There's this sense that they've slipped into a place where normal rules don't apply anymore. Then David sees a man standing in the road. Molly swerves, the car crashes, and when she wakes up, Dave is gone. From there, the episode drops us into what feels like a classic ghost encounter. Molly stumbles through the woods and finds a cabin, only to come face to face with the man from the road. He turns around and he reveals a horrifying stomach wound. And then his face shifts into something decayed and corpse-like, with blood pouring from his mouth. That image tells us almost everything we need to know about the first ghost in this story. This ghost is Jonah Greeley, and he's a vengeful spirit. In Supernatural, vengeful spirits are usually created by violent death, trauma, and unresolved emotion. They don't move on because something keeps them anchored here. That can be revenge. That can be rage. That can be a love twisted into obsession. In Greeley's case, it's pain that has curdled into cruelty. He isn't simply haunting the road because he died there. He's reliving his death through other people. He has become the kind of spirit that doesn't just exist in a place, he dominates it. And highways, of course, are perfect places for ghost lore. There really are so many real world legends about phantom hitchhikers, women in white, haunted roads, and spirits that appear to travel in the dead of night. And Roadkill taps into that whole tradition. The lonely road becomes this liminal space, threshold between the living and the dead, where the past keeps repeating itself. And when Molly throws herself in front of the Impala, and Sam and Dean stop her, this episode starts to shift. At first, it looks like the Winchesters are dealing with a standard haunting. A woman survives a crash, her husband is missing, and a dead man is stalking her. Very quickly, the ghost story gets stranger. The crashed car is gone, and the radio begins moving on its own, and a familiar song starts playing. And beneath it comes the whisper, "She's mine." And that line matters because Greeley doesn't just view Molly as a target. He sees her as something he owns, something bound to him. This isn't a random haunting. It's a cycle, a ritual, a punishment that has been repeated over and over. And Dean explains that they believe the ghost is Jonah Greeley, a man who died 15 years earlier on that road, who reappears every year on the anniversary of his death. And right away, this makes Greeley more than a wandering spirit. He's an anniversary ghost, shall we say. A spirit tied to a specific date and a specific event, which is something folklore and supernatural fiction both love to explore. These kinds of hauntings are often the most powerful because the spirit isn't just attached to a place, it's attached to a moment. And that moment keeps replaying over and over again. That's really one of the most unsettling things about this episode. Greeley's haunting is built on repetition. He returns every year to relive the violence. And in doing so, he traps someone else in that same loop. When Sam, Dean, and Molly go to Greeley's hunting cabin, the haunting becomes even more disturbing. The cabin is filled with hooks, butcher knives, and old blood stains everywhere. It feels like a place of death long before Greeley ever became a ghost. That setting matters because in ghost stories, places often absorb the energy of violence. Houses, cabins, roads, and rooms become containers for pain. Greeley's spirit doesn't just come from his death, it seems to have fused with the brutality of the place itself. But Roadkill doesn't stop with one ghost. The deeper horror in the episode is that Molly is a ghost too. She just doesn't know it yet, but Sam and Dean already know. This is what makes this episode so much richer than a simple haunted road story. We're not only watching Sam and Dean hunt a spirit, we're watching a spirit travel with them, speak with them, fear another ghost, and slowly move toward the truth of her own death. Molly is completely different than Greeley. Where Greeley is aggressive, violent, and consumed by vengeance, Molly is disoriented. She's frightened. She's trapped in denial, and she still thinks she's alive, which means her haunting isn't about revenge at all. It's about unfinished awareness. She hasn't moved on because she doesn't even know what happened to her. This is actually a sad and fascinating ghost concept. A lot of ghost stories focus on spirits who linger because they want justice or retribution. Molly lingers because her mind is still caught in the shock of the accident. She's reliving the last moments of her life without understanding that they are the last moments of her life. In a way, her ghost is a trauma echo. She's not choosing to haunt the road, she's literally stuck there. And that makes her one of the most tragic spirits in Supernatural. And as the investigation continues, Sam gives one of the key ideas of the episode when he explained that spirits usually stay because of unfinished business, usually something like revenge, love, or hate. That line really becomes the framework for understanding both ghosts here. Jonah Greeley is unfinished hate. Molly, on the other hand, she's unfinished love and unfinished grief. And then there's a third ghost presence in the story, even though she's silent. That's Greeley's wife. When Sam and Dean discover her remains in the attic, hanging where she died, the episode adds another layer to the haunting as a whole. She never became an active, violent spirit the way Greeley did, but her body hidden away in that house tells its own story. She is part of the emotional wreckage Greeley left behind. Her death suggests despair, loneliness, and the inability to live with what happened to her husband. And Sam and Dean bury her properly, which is one of those moments that remind us that laying the dead to rest isn't only about stopping danger, it's also about restoring dignity. And dignity really matters in ghost stories. That's part of what separates Supernatural from a lot of monster shows. The best ghost episodes remember that the dead were people first. At one time, they were living. Later, when the music starts playing from an unplugged jukebox and Greeley smashes through the window to drag Molly away, the haunting becomes even more personal. This isn't just Greeley attacking random people on the road. He's coming for Molly specifically. By this point, even before the full reveal, the episode is showing us that these two spirits are bound together by a single event, the accident on the road. Sam realizes Greeley's remains are probably buried under a tree, which follows an old country custom of planting a tree as a grave marker. The detail is such a nice bit of folklore woven into the episode. It gives the haunting a rootedness, literally and symbolically. Greeley has become something buried and hidden, but still alive in the landscape through memory and violence. Meanwhile, in the cabin, Greeley chains Molly up and tells her that his wife is gone and hurting Molly is all that he has left. That line is one of the clearest windows into how ghosthood works in this episode. Greeley is no longer motivated by healing, justice, or even mourning. He's empty except for pain. He's the purest form of a vengeful ghost, a spirit who has fed on the worst part of himself for so long that it's now the only part left. That's what makes him monstrous. And then we get to the reveal that changes everything. Molly didn't survive the crash, but David did. 15 years earlier, Molly and David hit Jonah Greeley with their car. Then they crash into the tree. David lived. Molly died. Since then, every year on the anniversary of their death, Greeley returns to punish Molly, forcing her to relive that night again and again. Witnesses have seen her appear on the road, running into traffic, chased by a bloody man. So the twist isn't just that Molly's dead. The twist is that this whole episode has been a ghost story told from the ghost's point of view. And that's one of the reasons Roadkill is so effective. We're used to seeing Sam and Dean investigate hauntings from the outside. Here, we experience the haunting from inside the confusion. We feel Molly's fear before we understand its meaning. We're in the ghost story with the ghost. And when you look back at the episode through that lens, it becomes even more powerful. Molly isn't merely being hunted by Greeley. She's being imprisoned by the moment of her own death. And Greeley has turned her into part of his haunting. He repeats his revenge by keeping her trapped there. That idea is so dark. It also makes Molly's ending one of the most beautiful resolutions of any ghost story in the show. Now, once Greeley's remains are salted and burned, his spirit is destroyed. His cycle of vengeance is broken. But Molly still has one final piece of unfinished business, David. She wants to see him. She wants to talk to him. She wants, in some way, to return to the life she thought she still had. But the truth is, that life is gone. Sam and Dean tell her that if she goes into that house, she'll only terrify him and bind herself even tighter to what she can't have anymore. And if she wants peace, she has to let go. And that's what she finally does. As the sun rises, Molly walks into the light and she disappears. For once, the ghost story doesn't end with destruction alone. It ends with release. That's really such an important difference. Greeley is a ghost who let pain define him, and it turned him into something cruel. Molly is a ghost who finally accepts the truth, and that acceptance allows her to move on. So at its heart, Roadkill is really asking what kind of ghost grief makes us into. Does pain hollow us out until all we can do is hurt other people? Or can truth, however painful, set us free? And that's why this episode lingers. It's not just scary. It's kind of sad in a way that feels very, very human. It takes a classic haunted road legend and turns it into a story about vengeful spirits, trapped souls, trauma loops, and the possibility for peace after death. And honestly, that makes it one of the best ghost episodes in the entire series. Now for fun facts and behind the scenes details about Roadkill. 1. This episode is one of the most famous twist ending episodes of all of Supernatural. A lot of fans remember Roadkill specifically because of the reveal that Molly herself is a ghost. It completely changes the episode on rewatch, and rewatch, and rewatch. 2. The story is built like a traditional ghost movie. More than many other episodes in the series, Roadkill itself feels like a self-contained supernatural film. It leans heavily on isolation, atmosphere, dread, and emotional revelation. 3. This episode plays with the classic roadside ghost folklore. The lonely highway, the apparition in the road, the repeated accident, and the spirit tied to a specific place all echo urban legends and phantom hitchhikers and haunted stretches of road. 4. Molly's story is unusual because she's a ghost who doesn't know she's dead. That gives the episode its emotional twist and makes it feel different from the show's more typical vengeful spirit episodes. 5. Jonah Greeley represents one of the clearest examples of a revenge-driven spirit in early seasons. He isn't just lingering because he died violently. He's actively replaying his suffering through someone else, which makes him especially cruel. 6. Sam and Dean spend most of the episode acting less like investigators and more like guides. Once the reveal lands, you realize they weren't solving the mystery alongside Molly, They were trying to help her survive it and eventually face the truth. 7. The sunrise ending is one of the gentlest ghost resolutions in the series. Instead of ending only with fear and violence, Roadkill closes with the idea that some spirits can still find peace. And finally, 8. The title Roadkill works on multiple levels. It refers to the deadly crash and to Greeley's death on the road, but it also hints at the emotional destruction that keeps echoing through the haunting year after year. That finishes this episode of Supernaturalist. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and share this with someone you think will enjoy it too. Thank you, and have a fantastic weekend.